this computer. It is recording. And Keith, I'm going to make you a co-host.
Okay.
So you can just go ahead and do what you need to do.
All right. I appreciate that, Eddie.
Okay.
And then we also have Xander, who's on the line. He was the one, if you joined early, he looked very Hollywood in his and then Laura. So, I mean, I think one of the most important things is kind of coming out of this call for you all to know that myself, Keith Timko, I'm the executive director here at Support Center. Xander Sabashi is the director of programs. Laura Holdridge is a program associate with us. We're going to be following up for some one-on-one conversations to talk with you. Some of you have worked, like I can see Dan is sort of the first up in the rotation. And so like we know Dan quite well. And so some of you, if we've worked with you for a few years, you might be like, oh, really? I have to work with Support Center again? Dan's like, no, that's not me. And that was you're just first in the lineup, Dan. I wasn't like calling you out in any particular way. But what we would like to do is to talk with you about the offerings that we do have that are going on, as well as the, kind of like what's on the docket for 2020. And from that, we'll talk about what that $700 or $1,400 gets you. So the first is the Accelerating Positive Social Change. This is just for a little bit for you to get to know about us as an organization. Our mission is to empower nonprofits and social enterprises to transform their leadership and management and accelerate positive social change. Hopefully that gets you excited. It gets us excited. We draw a lot of our energy from working with all of you in kind of the various organizations that you're a part of and your social enterprises. And really this is this idea of a thriving community of nonprofit leaders and social innovators. And so I would love to sort of ratchet up the level of engagement across this community over the course of the next several months. Like I think what we've done is we've done a very good job of sort of individualized work with each organization. And I'm sort of like, just one of my questions might be, what more could we do? And so some of you on the line today may be like, I know all of this stuff. I always participate in these workshops and trainings. And so I think the challenge is who else within your organizations, your social enterprises needs to get plugged into some of this work. Like part of it is sort of building that community, and there might just be other people who haven't yet had a chance to access kind of this community. So in terms of the work that we do, we do this work around strategy and management, things like strategic planning, executive transition, professional and leadership development, and organizational navigation, which is increasingly understanding that organizations, like we're trying to figure out where we're going as an organization over the next few years. Oftentimes we're tackling problems that the idea that we're going to have measures of success in a fairly narrow time frame when it's taken us centuries to manage to create this dysfunctional world that we live in. So how do we navigate that? So our strategic priority, how we navigate that, is by building communities of practice, empowering nonprofits through this integrated platform, and also the flexibility. Like Eddie's like, can we work together on this OFBI program or the SEED program? And we're like, yes. The answer is always yes. And so what would that look like? And so we come up with some kind of integrated platform to do that, convening us. So some of you took advantage of the seats at the Center for Nonprofit Conference 2 weeks ago, and that's great. And so part of it is bringing people together. You'll see less maybe relevant for this is the next wave of leadership and organizational transitions. But part of this is building the capacity of groups so that your organizations or your social enterprises do have that greater infrastructure. So regardless of necessarily which organization is around the table, you're doing well, and then harnessing the power of our community's people and resources. That's the last deal here in terms of Support Center. But for those of you who don't know us, and when Xander, Laura, or myself calls you, and you're like, who are you again? Like, this is who we are. This is the work that we do. Here's our history with the Office of Faith-Based Initiatives. And I'll pause for a moment just to say, like, everyone can hear okay. Like, so if you can't hear for whatever reason, just post that in the chat. And then Xander's writing to me privately, which I'm going to hit present on the slides. He's offering that up to me as some advice. So we're gonna view these in a present format so you can see it as full screen. Thank you, Xander. Appreciate the heads up. So we've been partners with Eddie and the Office of Faith-Based Initiatives since 2015. He hasn't yet broken up with us. He continues to hang out with us. But providing capacity building support to grantees through trainings and coaching. And what you'll hear a lot is, and we might open up the floor at least for one or two people who've worked with us historically, that you could sort of talk about what that's looked like, or maybe like what's worked well or not well. We do believe a lot in transparency. Like not everything goes necessarily according to plan, but like part of it is this dialogue and back and forth. And then we've coordinated an annual impact investment event. We've got some plans for April 2020 with Rutgers Business School. And again, you can use the chat if you have any particular questions, but you can kind of hang in there with us during this. So let's just dive on in. So what's on the docket for 2020? So the first thing that I'd say that's on the docket is the Spring 2020 Pitch Competition. And so that's going to anchor this program. So ideally, as many of the organizations that would like to would say, hey, we'd like to present. We ran essentially kind of a pre-qualifier for last year. So we had 3 organizations who actually pitched as part of the conference, but everybody prepared for that. I think the benefits is you're sort of working on public speaking, communications, you're working on kind of the model for your social venture. And it's good pre-work and good training. There is a financial award. So as it now stands, there'll be a little bit north of $10,000 of awards, kind of a first place award of $5,000. Try to raise some additional money for that to leverage what Eddie's kicked in. So all of the groups are welcome to participate, and training stipends are going to support your coaching to participate in the program. And I think it could, in terms of like the run up to the pitch competition, it could be things like, we'd like some assistance on our financial model. We'd like some assistance thinking through the plan. Like all of those have been kind of coaching topics that have come up in the past. So that's where we're at with the spring pitch competition. We could do questions now. I could just kind of keep running through it in the chat.
You know what I'll do? I'll unmute everybody, and so if they have a question, they can just hop on in.
Okay. All right. That would be
everybody. You're unmuted, and if you have a question, you can just jump. Introduce yourself first name, and then go ahead with your question. Go ahead.
Yeah. So then I said, if it's the shower on the third floor.
There's some background noise back. Somebody
in the morning, she said.
Let me mute everybody.
And then there's no leaks.
All right, so there is some background noise in somebody's space that is making it hard for Keith and for everybody to hear. So can you please check your background noise? Thank you. I'm going to unmute everybody again. All right, there we go.
That would mean the pipe all the way up to the third floor is bad.
Yeah. All right. I think we're just going to use the chat, Eddie, for our purposes here.
All right.
Understood.
Third floor. Third floor.
Okay. All right. So if we can mute everybody again.
Well, that's bad because
everybody's muted, and Keith, let me unmute you because I just did one big old. Okay, you're good to go, Keith. Oh, wait. Hold on for a second. Unmute Keith. Go ahead, Keith.
Okay. All right. Sorry. And then we're going to go. This is where I'll go back to the present. Okay. Is this her? Okay. All right. So then from here, that was the pitch competition. Then we have the New Jersey Accelerator series. So there, if you want to do then the prep work for the pitch competition, then we would work with you to do one-on-one kind of training in the run-up to that, which doesn't mean you couldn't access other trainings, right? I mean, I think part of it is Support Center. We run, about 80 workshops a year. We have a number of them that are in New York. We share space with Foundation Center. We'd welcome you pretty much for any of those. We'd love for you to be those kinds of like friends of the family who overstay your welcome and are always hanging out in our space and talking to us. So if you want to be rabid consumers of that, by all means, but we've also taken the show on the road. And so we're going to have a series of workshops and trainings with the New Jersey Accelerator series. So one's in Moorestown. And I know Viet Lead is signed up for a number of slots for the upcoming training that's next Monday on succession planning in Moorestown. But then we're going to have others that are going to talk about getting investment ready. So it's going to be in Newark, in Piscataway, and in Moorestown. Then the third one is going to be around data and kind of outcome measures. And the fourth one will be around organizational reviews or assessments and strategic planning. So we tried to come up with something that I think is broadly applicable to all of the groups that we work with. So we'd welcome as many of your staff or board members to attend those. Then we have the other ones. Like, I laughed that Eddie sort of had unintentionally attended one of our workshops on interviewing for keeps.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he was just sort of passing through, just auditing a workshop, ended up staying. I think the presenter, Lee, like sort of mistook Eddie for a participant like everyone else. And then Eddie's like, oh, I really learned something about interviewing for keeps. So there's a number of those workshops that you'll find on our website. So if you just go to supportcenteronline.org, you'll see you'll see all about those. There's a discount code. Actually, I mean, it's sort of complimentary to all of the seed grantees for the Accelerator series. And we'll try to, we'll send it. I know all of your inboxes are sort of overwhelmed. We'll try to kind of hit you, not every day, but just to kind of let you know for planning purposes, these trainings are going to be coming up between now and May, in addition to other kind of trainings. And part of this is to work with you if you're going to opt out of if you're going to opt out of like the pitch competition route, like maybe you've done that in years prior and you want to create some other more customized roadmap, then we'll work with you. And I see, for instance, like Sherry, what I would like to do, it's always been my ambition, right, is if Sherry says, hey, could we do like a creative marketing session? Like, we might create something as a bit of a pop-up session that, and maybe, now because of Zoom. So we used to do these sessions in Piscataway at Rutgers Business School. And I felt like for many of you, you were traveling, you spent as much time in your cars as you did in the session itself. And so I feel like our familiarity with Zoom has come a long way. And I don't know, I mean, Eddie, you're so expert at this. I don't know if you'll hang out with us and help us to figure out how to mute and unmute ourselves.
Yeah. I'm here.
No, I mean, in the future.
Yeah.
Like,
No doubt.
No, so I'm joking. And we'll figure, you're gonna build our capacity. You have other things to do. But the idea is, like, so Sherry has put out creative marketing, and we could sort of very quickly throw together maybe a session that might be, some of you might raise your hands and say, hey, we've got some pretty creative marketing ideas that we'd love to share with others. Not that we know it all. We at Support Center have a bunch of faculty where we might be able to have somebody do like a 30-minute session on creative marketing. Not that it's the end all be all, but it might be, here are some tips and tricks. Maybe we hear from one another about it. And then, sort of we collectively spend 60 or 75 minutes on the phone together, kind of along the way. So I definitely want to encourage and invite you all to sort of think of yourselves as co-creators, for what kinds of things we might do together. I do feel as though there will be opportunities to come together physically, but I do, just knowing that New Jersey as a state, like that wherever we choose to locate ourselves, some of you will have to travel extensively. So I feel like, leaning into the use of technology and Zoom makes a ton of sense. So that again is the, okay. And so we've got, so I can see some of the chats. You can write to me privately. You could do so publicly. We'll kind of move on. So then our professional and leadership development. So enrollment in other Support Center workshops and trainings. So we have things like our leadership and staff development, things like interviewing, things like management and supervision. So again, it may or may not explicitly pertain to your social venture or your social enterprise, but you may have people who are new to a role of supervision and management, like wondering how to navigate those dynamics, things like difficult conversations, as well as some of our standard fare around financial management for non-financial people, who I'm like one of the consistent trainers in that space. And I always feel like I get the evaluations from people who are like, I hated this workshop, but it was really beneficial to me. I don't know what to make of that, but nonetheless, I think it kind of helps to build some financial familiarity with just like, running the numbers, the outcome measures, like very simple. Like, so when Eddie asked all of us to do logic models as part of our applications, like some of us like maybe working with other people who don't, who might be sort of working and don't understand that as well. So again, you'll see that on the website. Take a look at that. And so now what? So I think the next step would be check-in calls are going to be scheduled shortly with each organization. You'll be talking with Xander, Laura, or myself. And then we're very much are like looking, I think we have a few agenda items that we would like to cover. One is that, for those of you who have worked with us before, I think we've tried to periodically hit you up with surveys and feedback loops but open to about your experience in prior years, and then what would be most helpful for this year. So I see that, so for instance, Sherry talking about, creative marketing, and then I think what we're going to try to do is to say, what are there some consistent themes across the board where we might want to do, and we can do office hours or just sort of meetups, kind of do some sharing across organizations, across groups. We could do some like a customized training, with your organization as part of it. It's a little like the budget between 700 and 1400 is, it covers, probably like 6 hours, of work, 6 or 7, probably 6 to 8 hours. So we could sort of think about that as a customized training, or as a workshop series. So ideally, I don't know, I know we're kind of already mid-December, but we'd like to schedule something, and maybe by the second week of January have had conversations with all of you, and then sort of have a game plan. We'll probably have a date for the spring conference with Rutgers Business School by early January. So you'll have that date. You'll have access to our training calendar on our website, and then we'll essentially put together a customized work plan with each organization that that would sort of figure out how we'll allocate either $700 or $1,400 across the board. So so that's sort of like, it seems fairly straightforward, but this might be a good time for you all to ask questions. You also likely got invoices from Crystal Harper, as part of our follow-up, for the invoicing for the 700 or 1400. And that's kind of how this program has worked, is that you all will allocate a portion of your budgets to work with Support Center, and then we kind of put together some kind of a package in terms of some kind of a plan. All right, so with that, so there's, so
I
see,
right, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was taking a look at the chat, but feel free to jump on in, Eddie.
I'm going to unmute everybody, and hopefully the background noise is not there. If it is, then I'll have to mute, and then you'll have to just in the chat let me know that you have a question, and then I'll unmute you individually. So let me unmute everybody right now. All right, everybody is unmuted, and the background noise is minimal. So there is a question from Barbara. Are we required to use the Support Center as our training provider? As much as I love the Support Center. Well, I think what you want to do, Barbara, is have a conversation with the Support Center to see if they're able to provide the capacity building training that you need in the space of operational consultation for your social enterprise venture. So let's see how that conversation goes to see if they can provide you with what you think you need to move your SEV forward. Fair?
Absolutely fair. Thank you.
Right, yeah.
Right.
And I will say that I just recently heard that someone fell in love with us when we told them not to work with us. So to that point, Barbara, I think I've realized us being honest about, maybe we're not the right people. Although I would just sort of put it out to everyone that we would love to do this work, because part of it is like, we're also like in the business of trying to figure out what the impact is of our work. And so the kind of the notion of us working with a cohort of organizations pursuing social enterprises, gives us the ability to reflect on and measure what that looks like. And it just gets a little trickier when like folks kind of opt out of that, and then the feedback loop looks a little bit different. But we're not trying to force anybody to kind of use services or kind of trainers or coaches that don't make sense.
Are there any other questions for Keith?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, Eddie, this is Eloise Samuels, New Jersey Orators.
Hey, Eloise.
Along the same line that Barbara was mentioning, I'm wondering if we can split some of the costs. One of your other partners, Pro Bono Partnership, is working with us to put together a sexual harassment training for all of our volunteers. So I'm not sure whether the Support Center offers that as a training. I know that you say you do customized training, but would that be something that is in your sweet spot? And if so, then I can understand that we would be using the budget that we have to apply to that. If not, then I would use the budget to apply toward the pro bono partners, which I don't think I'm even going to get charged for, but we'll see.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, certainly. I mean, I think we would also, just sort of see what's available. You might want to develop something customized. And yeah, I mean, that's a good case in point. Like if there was sort of an opportunity to work with pro bono partnership and they needed some funding, the kind of that dollar amount to do that, then by all means. I mean, like for me, like the most important thing is that you sort of got what you needed. Although I would love to see if there was a way to kind of do a both and, like that one sort of feels like a very specific need. And if there was a way for them to cover that through, and they might get some funding already through this program that could cover that. And then we could sort of see what other needs you have.
No, I understand that. That's excellent. And Keith, I did attend the.
Yeah, we sat. Didn't we sit together?
Yes, we sat together. Excellent. And I have a board member who's taking over that plan, the development of it, and will be in touch with you if he has any questions. He does already, so I thank you for that.
Sure. Yeah, no, I saw some of you have registered for some of the Accelerator series, so I appreciate that. Also, if you know of other organizations outside of this, I mean, the thing that's also painful for us is to like run a workshop or a training and realize that we could have had any number of more people in the room. And at the last session, someone's like, I really wish we had brought our organizational materials. And it's almost like a swap meet of programs and services. Like, I didn't know you did this. So it's sort of the more the merrier if you want to invite friends and family.
Any other questions for Keith and the training? All right. So Keith, you're gonna follow up with the seed folks between now and the second week of January, I figure, right?
Yeah, that's going to be the plan. And then I think we've got primary contacts, and then there may be other. There might just be other people within your organizations who might be, kind of the best, a better point of contact.
Right.
So in the early going, if you for whatever reason aren't the right point of contact, just please let us know who we should be in touch with. And then I see, all right, so Julie has just asked, I kind of just posted an idea for training. And so we'll write out to everyone. And then if you're like me, you sort of need a little bit of time to digest. But if you have some kind of group training ideas, so Julie's is on business structure, which we can also talk about bringing in pro bono partnership maybe for this conversation around structure. Or I think Xander has one or two people that he knows that he likes in this regard. But yeah, so that's it for us. It's kind of stay tuned, but just wanted to make sure everybody heard at one time, one message, and appreciate you all kind of coming together on relatively short notice, and appreciate your help, Eddie, in terms of navigating the technology.
No problem.
And
All right, everybody. If we don't speak between today and the end of the year into the new year, happy holidays, and I hope everybody has a great New Year's, and be safe. Take care, everybody.
Okay. All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.